Hey, what's up? And welcome to Adventures with Jules, where I complete everything off of my 2020 summer bucket list. Ever since quarantine began, I have been reading a ton. So I decided to challenge myself by reading 10 books in 2 months. So here are my ratings and reviews on all 10 books. Hi friends, Jules here and welcome back to episode 8 of Adventures with Jules. So on my summer bucket list, I said that I wanted to read 10 books and I actually ended up reading 10 books in only 2 months. So I decided that it would be super fun to give you guys my reviews of all of the books that I read, and all of these books are young adult books, so if you read those type of books, then definitely keep on watching. Okay, so basically how this video is going to work is I am going to give you my review of each of the book, but I'm going to start at 10. So 10 being my least favorite book, and then 1 being my all-time favorite book. And I'm just gonna read you the summary of each book and my review of it and what I thought of it. So starting off with book number 10, so this was my least favorite book of the one that I read, is Windfall by Jennifer E. Smith. So here's the summary. Alice loves Teddy, her best friend, but has never told him. When she buys him a lottery ticket that turns out to be a winner, their lives are changed forever and their friendship is put to the ultimate test. So I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars. Definitely would not recommend this book because the main point of the story happened within the first 2 chapters. So then the rest of the book, like, there was no point in reading it. The rest of the book just got really boring. It was a very difficult book to get through just because there wasn't a real point to reading it. So I did finish it, but it was a struggle to finish it for sure. Okay, so for book number 9, I have Looking for Alaska by John Green. You might have heard this book. I think it's a pretty popular book, and they also made a show out of it. So here is the summary. So 16-year-old Miles' first year at Culver Creek Preparatory School in Alabama includes good friends and great pranks, but is defined by the search for answers about life and death after a fatal car crash. This one I also gave 2 out of 5 stars. The concept of this book was really cool. So it was laid out into 2 parts. So the beginning was labeled the before and the second half of the book was labeled after. So it basically leaded up to this huge event and then showed the aftermath of it. And that part was really cool to read because throughout the entire book you're just wondering what this is before, like what this is leading up to. So that was really cool. And it was hard to find the main point of the book, and the main character Miles was also, for me, not a very relatable character. I couldn't really relate to his emotions and feelings very much. Okay, so book number 8 is Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. This is kind of tied with 7 and 8. So basically here is the summary. So Asa Holmes, a high school student with obsessive compulsive disorder, becomes focused on searching for a fugitive billionaire. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It wasn't bad, but it was just very weird. So the beginning was very slow. It took an extremely long time to actually get to the good point of the story, but something about it I just didn't completely love. I don't know what it was, but there was just something that was off for me. I feel like I could have given this one a little bit higher of a ranking, but I definitely have read better books than this one. Okay, so for book number 7, I have Field Notes on Love by Jennifer E. Smith. So I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars, and here is the summary. So 2 teens, Hugo and May, are strangers until they share a cross-country train trip that teaches them about love, each other, and the futures they can build for themselves. So this was another one of those 2 perspective books, and if I haven't mentioned that earlier, I love 2 perspective books, and it left the reader off with a lot of questions. That is something that I don't like, especially if there's not a second book, and this one there isn't. But yeah, this one gets a 4 out of 5 stars. Alright, so for book number 6, I have What to Say Next by Julie Buxbaum. I think that's how you pronounce her name. So let me pull up the summary. When an unlikely friendship is sparked between relatively popular Kit Lowell and socially isolated David Drucker, Kit asks David for his help figuring out how and why of her father's tragic car accident. So I actually really enjoyed this one. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. It was a 2-perspective book, and I love those types of books. And then they kind of like meet together and their story just unfolds, and it's really cool seeing 2 different sides of the same story, especially because they are complete, like, polar opposite characters. Okay, so next up for book number 5, I have Symptoms of a Heartbreak. So Symptoms of a Heartbreak is about a 16-year-old girl who's the youngest doctor in the United States. After speeding through high school, college at Princeton, and medical school, she starts her career and realizes that being tops in school doesn't mean being a doctor is going to be a walk in the park. So I gave this one 5 out of 5. It was such a fun read. I really liked the medical aspect of it, even though it wasn't true. It was still fun to see her kind of go through that process also, but the feelings were very raw and realistic in it, and it dealt with some pretty big issues like grief and loss and how to overcome those types of things, which I thought was really interesting to read about. Alright, so for book number 4, I have Will Grayson by John Green and David Levithon. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. So the summary is, when 2 teens, one gay and one straight, meet accidentally and discover that they share the same name, their lives become intertwined as one begins dating the other's best friend, who produces a play revealing his relationship with them both. So this book, I gave a 5 out of 5. I absolutely loved it. The plot was really, like, it was very funny, but it was really well executed. So this was like, John Green wrote one character and then David Levithon wrote the other, so it was obviously a 2-perspective book. But in the beginning and through like a little bit of the book, both of the characters had nothing to do with each other. So it was just 2 completely different lives, and then they met at one little incident, and it was really cool to see how their stories slowly connected. Alright, so book number 3 I have With the Fire on High. So the summary is, teen mother Emily Santiago struggles with the challenges of finishing high school and her dream of working as a chef. So I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. I loved this book. I'm not even kidding. I read it. I like sat down and read it in like 5 hours in one day. It was extremely engaging and I really didn't want to put it down. But this book also had some really, really good lessons in it. It talked a lot about like overcoming adversity. There was a lot of really good takeaways that you could get from this book. Alright, so book number 2 is Everything Everything by Nicola Yoon. So, the summary. The story of a teenage girl who's literally allergic to the outside world. When a new family moves in next door, she begins a complicated romance and challenges everything she's ever known. This book obviously got 5 out of 5 stars. I love it. I think I've said that about most of the books. But this book was extremely engaging because the format of the chapters constantly changed. So there was a lot of different drawings, and like it would go from texting to medical labs to a normal chapter and everything in between. So there was a bunch of different ways that you learned from the story, if that makes any sense. I'll show you like a flip through of the book so you understand what I'm talking about. But literally I didn't want to put it down. Like, it was so engaging. Okay, and then finally, my favorite book of all the books that I have read is Love, Simon, or Simon versus the Homo sapiens Agenda. So I gave this one 5 stars obviously, but here is the summary. So everyone deserves a great love story, but for 17-year-old Simon Spear, it's a little more complicated. He hasn't told his family or friends that he's gay, and he doesn't know the identity of the anonymous classmate that he's fallen for online. Resolving both issues proves hilarious, terrifying, and life-changing. So I actually finished this book yesterday. I give this one 5 out of 5 stars, obviously. But this is definitely my new favorite book out of like all of the books I have ever read before. It was such a good book. It was very, very funny to read too, but it also dove into some more serious topics. This book actually really reminded me of Will Grayson, the book that I mentioned earlier, because there was just some very like commonalities in between each of the books that I thought was really cool, and I thought that it was a really fun book to read. Okay, so that is all of the 10 books that I have for you guys. Comment down below what your all-time favorite book is, because I'm looking for some more to read. So I hope that you guys liked this review and this kind of video. I'm definitely gonna make more like this. And also, these were all just like my opinions, so obviously you can have your own opinion about each book. This is just what I thought. So thank you so much for watching. I post new videos Tuesday and Friday. Bye!